Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about combat sports, which ones are going to be the most effective for you to kind of go and utilize most in a combat situation outside of doing an event in that particular sport. Obviously, if you're looking to compete in a sport and so in a combat sport and you want to do a certain combat sport, go ahead and do it. So if you want to go and do wrestling or jiu-jitsu, or if you want to go and do boxing to a certain level, go and do that. That's fine. But I'm saying the best balance between what is the best kind of sports to do, what are the best events to do to develop your skills as a fighter, as an all-round fighter. So there are lots of different types of combat sports. You're going to have boxing, Muay Thai, and then you've got kickboxing, you've got jiu-jitsu, you've got wrestling, you've got MMA, so mixed martial arts, and there are lots of different areas which will cover lots of different areas themselves. So you've got lots of different ways of fighting which cover lots of different areas. So boxing is a two point striking system. So you've just got your two hands, and basically it's just hand to hand combat. It's focusing on can you hit and not get hit, and using a different style than a different style to kind of both avoid punches and get into the best position to deliver the blow that the opponent cannot foresee and brace for properly. So if you can get somewhere where the opponent cannot see you and then deliver a punch, then you're going to be doing the most damage because they're not going to see that punch coming, so they won't be able to prepare for it and brace for it properly. So then it's going to cause the most damage. So the aim of boxing is to cause the most damage through getting in the right position and not being hit. Yep. This is the same with practically any other striking sport, but when it comes to kickboxing and Muay Thai, these are different because they utilize. So kickboxing utilizes your legs. So then you can introduce leg kicks as kickboxing, so kicking, and it's a 4 point striking system. So both your hands and your legs. And then you've got Muay Thai, which is an 8 point striking system, which brings in, so you've got your hands, your legs, your knees, and your elbows. So you've got the hard points of contact, which will be able to deliver a lot more damage, but they've got a lot shorter range. So I can't reach you there, but I can reach you there. So it's a little bit different. And then you've got Jiu-Jitsu, which is utilizing different holds, throws, and putting people in certain positions so you can utilize the limits of their own body. So things like pressure point holds and arm bars, for example. So if they don't have the very good flexibility, then they're not going to be able. You can utilize that to push them in a certain direction by pushing that joint or that limb that way. You're going to force the person to move that way because they're not prepared with their flexibility. And then you've got wrestling, which is holding and forcing someone to the ground for a certain amount of time and a certain point of their body to the ground. So all of these different types of combat sports, they all have different benefits, and they're all going to be more or less practical in a fighting situation. Obviously, something is better than nothing. So if you have no fighting experience whatsoever, go and do anything. Just go and get some experience. But in my opinion, the best is going to be a mix of some sort of grappling and wrestling sports. So it could be jiu-jitsu or it could be wrestling, and just learning some way to kind of handle and grapple around other people. So if it goes to the floor and you're in an altercation on the floor, then you can handle with yourself properly and you don't have to be on your feet. But then you also should learn a striking sport such as Muay Thai, boxing, or kickboxing, so that you have the ability to protect yourself while on your feet, so you don't have to take a fight to the floor. And it's probably best that if you are in a fight, in an altercation outside of the club that you practice at and that kind of thing, then it's probably the best idea to try and avoid a fight altogether, and then avoid going to the floor if you are in that fight, because you don't know what's going to happen. Someone else could come up and start kicking you, some other people can join the fight, and the best option always is going to be just go away. just, I know it sounds like you're being a bit wet, but just back up, just stay out of the fight as much as you can. Don't start fights, just stay away from any kind of violence as much as you can. But if you are involved, then you've got to know how to protect yourself. Fighting is it's a tool of violence, but you need to know how to control it. And I believe as men, we should be capable of violence and power, but we should have the ability to control it. We should have the self-restraint and the knowledge to both be able to exert that power properly, but not abuse it in the sense that we then make other people that are weaker than us are bitches. We've got to understand that with great power comes great responsibility, and being able to fight is a big thing because not many people do nowadays. So if you're out in the street, everyone's probably going to say, "Yeah, I know how to fight," but in fact, they have no experience whatsoever, and someone who's been boxing for a few months could probably very easily take them apart. So Bruce Lee said this. He said, "Someone who's been doing boxing and wrestling for 1 year could most likely beat someone who's been doing any kind of martial art for 15 years." This kind of comes in to show that, in my opinion, martial arts, they're not very practical. It's more about redirecting the person's attacks, and I don't know much about it, but I don't believe it's going to prepare you as well as learning how to strike, grapple, and actually fight instead of whatever martial arts is. So another thing I'd like to mention is a lot of people do believe that they can fight when they have no experience whatsoever and they've never been in a fight before, and they have no idea of any kind of fighting, and they think they could just go up on anyone, and without any idea of how much experience that person has, they think they could just smoke them. They could absolutely just beat the floor with them. But this is the thing a lot of people have got to understand. First of all, there's a lot of people out there who do know how to fight, and you don't know who they are. They may not be easily recognizable. So you've got to be careful, because you might pick a fight with the wrong person if that situation comes in. But then you've also got to understand that a lot of people are going to say that they can fight when they can't, and they're most likely going to be in that situation of, yeah, I can fight, and they'll act really tough, really cocky, and really outgoing, as if they are the dog's bollocks, but they're not, because they haven't been humbled by the experience of doing things like sparring and actually taking a punch to the face regularly, so they don't understand that it's not just throwing punches. One other thing is that the majority of fights outside of, so like street fights, they're not going to last very long. It could just be a minute, and the majority of fights is both people are going to end up very tired very quickly, because you're not against professional fighters who've trained for rounds and rounds. It's going to be a couple of drunk people most likely who are just had a few drinks, and then they start brawling and it ends up in a fight, and then they just get tired really quickly, so they're going to be really out of breath. So if you have good endurance, then you're going to be able to outlast your opponent. You could wait 30 seconds, just let them kind of throw a ton of punches, just protect yourself, keep moving, and then they're going to be out of breath and blowing, and they won't be able to think straight, because they're, one, half pissed because they're drunk so much, and then two, they're just so tired they can't tell the difference between their hand and where you are. Then you can start to just either calm them down, or you can take them apart if they keep coming at you. So one last thing is, I want to mention how every man believes that every man has an opinion in combat sports. Every man has an opinion in fighting, because for some reason it's just this urge to almost prove yourself. So I see a lot of you'll see a lot of people who have no experience whatsoever, and they may be commenting on posts or whatever, saying you're doing it wrong, you're doing it this way, that's not right, etc., etc. And they believe they could hold their own in a fight, but they haven't got any experience. And it's a lot, there's going to be a lot of excuses for people, for a lot of men to come up and say at the end, 50, when they're 50 years old, and they say, oh yeah, I would have been a great fighter, I would have been this, I would have been that, but they never actually took the step. And there will always be excuses for people. They'll always have some sort of excuse to say for the reason they didn't do a fight, they didn't do some sort of combat sport, the reason they didn't practice these and drill these kinds of things that are actually really helpful. Everyone will always have an excuse, and it's ridiculous, because they will always have their own opinion. They'll always think that they're the top of the line and they know what's going on, because it's, I've got to prove something because I'm a man, and it's that kind of area. But you've got to realise there's nothing to prove. What you're doing is you're trying to train yourself to be the best you can be. And by doing this, you're then going to be more confident, because you know at the end of the day, if you're not fighting someone, it's going to be pretty easy, because it might just be sitting down on a computer or trying to sell something. It's going to be a lot easier than getting punched in the face for 3 rounds, isn't it? So lots of people think they can fight, and they have an opinion on it when they have no experience whatsoever in themselves. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.